Hey y'all, Rest here. Today we're going to be talking about the Opus 21 cards. So I'm joined by my two friends, Emmanuel and Pat. So I figured we'd just start off by introducing ourselves. My name's Chris. I go by Rest on uh, the Discord, and I've been playing since about like Opus 18-ish, so like the start of the year. So not too long. Yeah, I guess. Do you want to introduce yourself, Pat?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. My name is Pat. I've been playing since Opus 1, but playing more seriously since Opus 12. And I typically play more Johnny type decks if we're using player profiles from Magic. So I like neat interactions and things like that.
Yeah, and do you want to introduce yourself, Emmanuel?
Hi, I'm Emmanuel Padilla. I'm a washed out player. I used to play since Opus 3. Uh, got a little bit into the competitive scene, was the runner up for 2019 Nats. I went to Worlds. It was quite a fun experience. And then I haven't had anything under my belt since. I hope to get back to OP this year. Hopefully, there's some fun stuff going around the corner. So I will be taking a look at these in the most competitive sense I can, with the understanding that I am a little bit out of touch. So.
Yeah, so we got the new-ish player, the Johnny player, and the like Nats player. um, Yeah, so we're pretty much just going to be treating this as like kind of a conversation more than anything. I picked out a couple cards from each color that I figured we'd talk about. I didn't want to pick out every single card. We don't have to talk about all the like draft chaff, set filler. But I picked out all the legends. I picked out most of the heroes, and then some of the really important commons and uncommons that I think, and as well as some ones that I just thought were interesting. Yeah, so it's gonna be pretty laid back. Um, Grab a drink. I think all of us are gonna be drinking.
Yeah.
So hopefully we're not wasted by the time we get to the water cards. All right, so let's start off with the fire cards. So we have the Cyan Legend, 3 CP, Samurai, Cat 6. When Cyan enters the field, you can pay X. When you do so, gain a crystal for each CP that you paid, up to 5. He has 3 abilities. You can pay a crystal for him to gain 3k, crystal to deal 3k to any forward, and then the really important one is 5 crystals to 9k to the entire opponent's board. So, kind of starting off with, I think, one of the most interesting cards to analyze this set. Um, I don't know. I guess I'll start with Pat. What do you what do you think about this card? Because I kind of know your thoughts on this a little bit already.
Yeah, so as someone who hasn't played against it yet, because I don't
Mhm.
typically like playing on Octagon, so I haven't had a chance yet to really try these out. But I'm just so wary of Ama on this.
Yeah. I
Like dumping 8 mana just to get Ama, just I don't know, it just seems so risky to
Yeah,
me.
I mean, 8 CP dies to Ama just sounds horrible, right? But like I've played against this and I promise that it's actually kind of legit. Um so like one of the like an example, right, is I was playing walls, like one of my first 21 testing matches, and someone was playing like I don't know, it was like wind, fire, water, DFF, walls, crystals, right? And um game's pretty even. And like at the end of the game, they play this card down and pay 8, and I don't have Ama, and the game just ended, right? Like the the hidden text on this card is that like um your opponent basically can't play forwards as long as Cyan is on the field and you have 5 crystals, because you can use the board whip at any point. Um, yeah, man, did you have anything to mention about this?
Yeah, so I think I'll evaluate this as just crystal cards because it is category 6, but I don't think it's particularly relevant in
Yeah.
category 6 deck. Um, if we're gonna say like something dies to Ahmad, then all the cards that we have here.
Yeah.
That's no. But I get what you're saying. I don't think you play this necessarily in a deck where you don't generate any crystals whatsoever. Like generating crystals with via backups or other effects is becoming pretty trivial.
Mm.
So most of the time, you're not even going to pay the full 8 for this, right? If this was only pay 8 to clear your opponent's board, we might as well just be playing Susano or something like that. I think the strength of this card is the fact that, it's I mean, there's some relevance that it's a samurai, I guess, but it's a cheap card. It basically turns all your crystals for this to board wipe your opponent, right? So let's imagine this costs 8, and for every crystal, instead of it saying pay 5 crystals, it said for every crystal you have, it costs less, right? If you look at it that way, then you're encouraged to generate crystals to basically one-side board wipe your opponent. If you're at the point where you do have 5 crystal, you can't even like really get Ahmad, unless I'm misunderstanding correctly. You don't have to pay X, right? So like you don't create a to be at, or do you?
Well, so if you pay 5, then there's another auto ability, right? And then you can Ahmad that, or
right. But if you already have 5 crystals and you pay 3 for this.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
There will still be a auto ability trigger that can be Ahmad, the first one, but you can pay 0. But they can still Ahmad that.
Okay, never mind then.
Yeah. But if you Ahmad that, you can still, if you already have 5 crystals, then you can
still do 9K. Yeah, yep. So basically, he becomes Ahmad proof at 5 crystals, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So
and just like the fact that you don't have to pop it right away, like you don't have to use this until your opponent answers the Cyan. So you could just hold this, and then like, what do they do?
And keep in mind, you don't even lose him. If you already have a crystal, you don't even lose him technically to Ahmad. You can use the crystal to protect him from the damage, right? So even if your opponent Ahmad, you paid a lot, but you still keep it forward. They Ahmad, they didn't really got rid of your forward till the Ahmad like lost a lot of its value. I don't know. I haven't. I'm like Pat. I haven't played against this, but I can see that the ceiling is pretty high. I might be surprised. Being cost 3 is pretty relevant, as we'll see later. So
yeah.
And I guess I haven't played with the DFF cards yet either. I don't know how fast people are generating crystals these days, but I guess like I would be pretty happy playing this for only 3 if I had 5 crystals already. Like I didn't consider really that aspect.
Yeah, well, because there's like the new Therian that like generates crystals whenever you kill things on your opponent's board, things like that. Like it's a bit easier to generate crystals now, so. So let's talk about Shadow. So this is 7 CP. You're not paying 7 CP for this, probably. Category 6, Warp 3 for 1 fire, but again, this probably isn't going to be warping in for 3 turns. It says, at the end of each of your turns, if 1 or more warp counters are placed on Shadow, remove a warp counter from Shadow for each Category 6 forward you control. It only, it's only when he's warped that it does this. And when he ETBs, discard your hand, draw 2. So, I don't know. I don't really play Cat 6, but I know that the 5 CP lock, the engine lock, from what I know, like, usually you kind of end your turn with a couple cards in hand still because, eventually you run out of ways to pay for your cards. So my one worry is that the idea is that you warp Shadow and then you dump your hand with your Cat 6 forwards, and then Shadow warps in and you draw 2, right, for 1 CP, and you get a 9k out of it. But I'm just worried that you're not going to have an empty hand a lot of the times that this comes in. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'll start, I think. The issue I have with this card is the card named Shadow. That means that the deck will be running a little more lean on backups, which is, I don't know if this is worth the deck losing a couple of backups. Maybe it is. But I do think it's pretty strong. It warrants testing, right? Because you said, like, okay, the deck usually doesn't end with, it ends with 1 or 2 cards in hand because it can't play them. Well, this solves that issue, right? Because usually you end with like 2 cards. And this is like, all right, so I'll discard my other card to warp this. And then at the end of the turn, you get to play this, right? Draw 2 and then draw for lock, too.
Oh, I didn't even consider that, yeah.
Yeah. So this is like, it's like, all right, I'm going to cycle these cards by just warping this. I get a 9k, I get to draw 2, and I get a lock reveal off of it. So I think this definitely warrants some testing. I don't know how bad it is to lose the backup. That's where I'm leaving it. That's my assessment of this card. I think it has potential, but like you said, I'm not a 6 player either. So
Yeah.
we'll
Oh wait, is the lock on ETB or is it on cast? I forget. I guess we can put this up.
No, it is cast. No, you're right. Dang,
It is cast. Oh, then yeah.
Nope. So you get two. You get 2 cards at least
Uh,
when you cast. Yes. So this isn't a cast.
oh, this is the wrong lock. Yeah, but anyways, so okay, so then yeah. I think the one issue then I guess I also have is that because the warp is fire CP and not colorless or like fire or, ice or whatever. I'd also be worried that you like end your turn with shadow and an ice card in hand and then you can't warp this. Yeah.
You have to plan your turn a little more.
Yeah, but I think Cat 6 doesn't usually have an issue getting 1 fire backup.
Nah, yeah, I don't think it's a problem. I think it's like how good is a 1 CP 9K in that deck.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what you're going for.
Yeah. All right. Move on. Let's talk about Taivas. So this is one of the important engine cards that we're getting. So 5 CP, Warrior, FFBE. When Taivas enters the field, you can search for a Job Warrior or card name Warrior and add it to your hand. And then as an action ability for 0, play a Job Warrior or card name Warrior of cost 3 or less from your hand onto the field, and you can only use this ability during your turn and once per turn. So once per turn cycle, pretty much. Yeah, Emmanuel, I know you've been testing, or at least like deck building with this card. So why don't you start with you?
Oh yeah, so it's a good generic searcher. I think it's one of those where the only problem is it restricts deck building to get full value.
Mm-hmm.
To something that's not particularly strong. I don't think we're at the point where we have enough warriors to run a critical mass and of that every turn we're casting something with this and build a good deck around that. I will say that if you're looking for a specific warrior though, like for example, I've been using it to search like 2 CP Furion and cast them. It's like an extra guy, so to speak. And search play Furion, that's pretty good. And the fact that he gets like potential value every turn. You can even like play backups with this, and even Just Fire has stuff like Red 13 backup. It has a Warrior standard unit backup that you can just play for free. Then yeah, eventually you get a lot of value. It's just I don't think the critical mass of Warriors is there right now to make it worth it. But would always keep my eye on this guy because it can suddenly turn if we suddenly get a really good 3 CP Warrior. This guy just grabs it and plays it.
Yeah, like the 3 big warriors we have right now are Furion, Yuzuki, and Mog 6, right?
A ward. Somewhat. The one that does 7K, I think, on entry. EX.
Yeah. Whoops. You said ward? Oh yeah, the new one. You're right. That's not on these slides, but yeah, it's like you're right. 3 CP EX deals 7K to a forward on entry. So.
Yep. So I don't know. I'm kind of mid so far, but we'll see how it goes.
Anything else to mention?
Nah, not from my side.
I really like that the activate ability is colorless, so you can really play a lot of like the 2 color warriors, like Furion, as you mentioned. Like it makes it a lot easier to play. You don't even need water CP to play Furion.
There's like that Maria, right?
Yeah, the Ice Wind Maria.
Yeah, she's a warrior. All the rebels are warriors for some reason.
Most of the new rebels are warriors. I think one of the fun things that I've done is I play a bunch of rebels. The 3 CP Leon searches a Maria. You can search the Wind Maria just to have a target to search with Leon, and then play her with this dude without running any Wind cards in your deck. You just discard her for CP most of the time, but if you happen to have this guy, suddenly my Furion is like AK or something like that. It's a funny interaction.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Feolthanos. So this is a 5 CP Cat 12, forward 9k. When your opponent uses an EX burst, Feolthanos deals your opponent 3 points of damage. When Feolthanos is put from from the field into the break zone, choose up to 2 forwards, deal them 9k. So this basically reads your opponent's not using EX bursts. Yeah, what do you two guys think?
I love this whole like mini cycle of
Oh my god,
EX8.
yeah, same.
We're talking about the other ones later on too,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, for sure.
But I mean, this especially 5 CP fire is clear fit into like the Verstale Celsius sort
Yeah.
of shell.
Mhm.
I just love this effect. It's super unique, and I hope we see more of this in the future.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think Verstale players are very happy this set. We'll see a bunch of cards that are almost specifically designed for them. I don't see this in many decks that are not Verstale decks, though. It's
Yeah.
50 costs for no ETB. So I'm a little, but for Verstale, who just like loves having these type of cards and just discards them for their main engine, having the option to play this card against decks that they know have a ton of EX burst is definitely a plus. So
Yeah. So that's kind of my big problem with this card is that I saw it and I was like, oh yes, EX8, but then I was like, oh, this card's like way too narrow, right? Like this is pretty much, in my opinion, only going into Verstale. Like I don't see this going anywhere else, personally.
I agree with you. I'd be surprised if not, but I agree.
And I don't know. I don't like Verstale. So I know that's probably a hot take, but
I hope
um
GP is not watching this video.
I don't know. I'm not a huge like I'm more of a control player, so those decks that just kind of like flip a bunch of cards and then hope you get a lot of value out of them. Not like my kind of a deck, but I mean, uh, not every card's designed for me. So, and we got more EX8 that, especially when we talk about the Lena, I'm glad we got some EX8 that isn't like super narrow. So,
Yep, or extremely powerful. So
yeah,
I like it.
yeah. Bahamut. So we're going to be talking about the hero cycle of summons as well. So this is the first one in Fire. 5 CP summon. During your turn, the cost required to cast Bahamut is reduced by 2. So it's a 3 CP summon on your turn. Choose a forward, deal it 10k. The damage cannot be reduced. And then if it's put from the field into the break zone, remove from game. So RFG the forward. It has the Kuchaspel effect. I think this is solid. I think the big comparison though that you have to make is the new Ifrit that came out. I think it was either last set or Opus 19. I don't really remember. The one that's like 5k to uh, twice if you have some number of fire characters. I think that's the big comparison they have to make. But I think like RFG and as well having Kuchaspel effect means that this hits Rydia as well. I think it's solid. I don't know where this might see play outside of Mono Fire though, but uh, unlike Ifrit, it doesn't have to just be played in Mono Fire. So, what do you think?
I think it sucks.
Oh, really? Oh, shit. All right.
I think this card could have cost 4, and it still would be like barely playable. So
Really?
the game is at a point right
Mhm.
now where decks are very fast.
Yeah.
They build a lot of board, and we are way past the point where paying any amount of CP, in this case, the minimum you're paying is 3, right? Unless you're
Mhm.
casting it out for free for Rydia. But the minimum you're casting on your turn, it's 3 to kill one thing. Yeah, okay, RFG, fine. Kill one thing and not build your board. That's not a winning strategy nowadays.
Hmm.
Opus 10, 11, yeah, sure. But nowadays, if you're not getting some sort of value out of your cards, it's going 1-1 is not it's 0-1, right? You're moving it forward, you're getting rid of your card and paying 3 CP. You're not winning the game that way. That's the way I see it. It's a little too late, a little too late in my opinion. And
You cut out for a sec.
oh, sorry. If this costs 4, then I would consider it. But at 5, I no in the binder.
Yeah, okay, honestly, that's fair. I didn't consider that, but yeah, I mean, you're totally right. Like the not building your board is kind of a big deal. Or like later we'll talk about Odin as well. I think like cantripping, for example, also is super helpful to get through your deck. Um, but I mean, we'll talk about that card when we get there. Um, yeah, I don't know. What do you think about this card, Pat?
Yeah, I was gonna agree more, lean towards Emmanuel more of it
Hmm.
like not being as good. I think 5 CP is fine if it had EX burst.
Oh yeah, that is a good point
um,
actually.
Especially because like the with the cost reduction on your turn, I felt like having EX burst sort of balances that out as like
Hmm.
a way to have it playable on your opponent's turn.
Agreed.
Um, and I think it's like the 10k can't be reduced. That's basically like an Odin effect. It's basically like destroy target creature, right?
Yeah.
Like not many things are surviving 10k, and there's a lot of Odins that can do something similar now for cheaper. Um,
Agreed. Yep.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, honestly, you two have convinced me. This card sucks. All right, well, I didn't play test this card, so all right. Sucks because it's a mono art too. This art is gorgeous.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
I know. All right, let's talk about Edgar. So this is a card I'm very excited for. So this is 3 CP King Waft card. Backup. When Edgar enters the field, you may play one character of cost 2 or less from your hand onto the field, and he has a tap effect. Put Edgar into the break zone. Play a character of cost 2 or less from your hand onto the field. Um, so my first immediate thought is, oh, this plays Zidane. This plays the, or so specifically the Fire Lightning, or sorry, the Fire Wind Zidane. This plays Lightning, Water, Lightning. This plays the Twins, and this plays Rydia. So um, I think the card is probably less narrow than that, but I think the biggest thing that this card does is it plays your 2 CP backups and it plays Zidane. Um, I can tell you from testing that going turn one, pitch 2 cards, play Edgar, play Zidane is really obnoxious. um, yeah, what do you two think?
I like it. I mean, it's WAF makes it immediately 10 out of 10 in my eyes. I love that category. Uh, the fact that it's king, it means
Yep.
it's searchable by Claris. It's just so it's highly searchable. It's
Yeah.
searchable in Earth by Claris and Water by Sarah. And it enables the gentleman's game of turn one back up and then turn two this into a 2 CP backup. It just feels good. That just gives you a really good high of that really good feeling of I played 3 backups on turn two,
Mm.
and spent 1 card less than I normally would, right? Like you say, there's other interactions where you can be aggressive by playing stuff like Zidane turn one while also building a backup, right?
Mm.
So in that sense, I really like this card. I think it'll see some play for sure. Just because it's a Fire King, that alone will make
Yeah.
it play. So
I think the big thing is that like I mean, so we have the 2 CP Edgar that is also a king, but I mean, he kind of has no text in most decks.
yep,
But this needs a critical mass of cost 2 or less characters. So I felt really good playing him in decks that are playing like blue worms and stuff, right? Just like having extra characters that aren't like 2 CP forwards or 2 CP backups has felt pretty good. Um, yeah.
I I love this card.
love
As
Mhm.
this card speaks to my Johnny heart. You guys have both played against my like Ravana
Yep.
deck,
Yep.
where the whole point of it is play a lot of like cheap monsters that sack themselves at
Oh,
instant speed.
Yep.
And this is like perfect for that deck. It's basically it's lightning, fire, water. It has a lot of the like 1 or 2 mana monsters. It plays Evray and Atomos as well, and this is like a good way to get them onto the field as well. If you draw them, it also plays Insaganashi to protect like my whole field. It gets to play like the off-color cards either when it ETBs or at instant speed for the sack.
Yep.
And if you sack it, it also triggers the Ravana to untap. Like it does everything Ravana wants. It's like the perfect backup for that deck. And like I love it. And it's a king.
I guess actually, yeah, so that's two things that I forgot to mention. So the sack ability is like really also very obnoxious. Combat tricking in either Furion or Zidane, or even Lightning, honestly, is just like, it feels like I'm cheating sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you swing with Zidane, they block with their like 2 CP forward or whatever, and then you just cheat in another one, and then you steal another card, another 2 cards, right? You know, the big thing. So I guess when evaluating this card, right? Because if this said, for example, 3 CP draw a card, right? In Mono Fire, you would just draw the card and then play the character of cost 2 or less using the card that you drew, right? So the big thing that this does is it fixes colors, right? Like it plays off color cards.
Mhm.
That's kind of the real value that I see in this card. Is cheating out dual color 2 CP forwards or just playing off color characters in general.
Yep.
Yeah, that's like the big value I see.
Yeah, and you like, and the instant speed
Yep.
on your opponent's turn, like no on your own turn restriction. That's
Mhm.
like so good because like your opponent could be setting something up, and then you can Zidane them.
Yep.
And just take it out of their hands, similar to something like Vendilion Click in Magic, right? Like they're preparing for some big play. You can like check their hands, take out any like any S's if they have like a special on board. You know, like it. There's so many use cases for this card, and it's like it's amazing. I love this card.
Like they Tyro, and then at the end of the turn, you just cheat in Zidane and then steal their card. I mean, I guess you could just do that on your turn as well. But I more so mean like if they're gonna Tyro to play something like after combat or something like that, right? Zidane can steal it.
But it's still good. You can respond to stuff like Warrior of Light activating the backups, right?
Yep.
So that Warrior of Light, and before you activate, all right, let me see what you have there and take it off, right? So anytime your opponent creates a stack, they're getting Zidaned, which is pretty powerful.
All right. Let's talk about. I guess that was all of the fire cards that I have prepared. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to mention in fire? I guess I can pull it up.
I mean, I'm in FF decks right now, checking, but I don't think there's anything particularly interesting that you forgot here. I guess we're not talking about the starter deck cards like the Fairy Cloud, blah blah blah.
Oh yeah, I included Ishtola later in these slides, but I mean we could talk about the DFF
okay,
cards.
No, I don't want to talk about because I know people are like just because it's whatever. It's the one that buffs damage. Lehftia.
Oh, you're right, Lehftia. I did forget that because I have played against that. Let me pull it up. Lehftia. Yeah, so this is 2CP Fusionist FFBE. If you're fire summon or fire character you control, I learned this ruling the other week, deals damage to a forward, the damage increases by 2,000. At damage 3, when Lehftia enters the field, choose a forward opponent controls, deal at 6k, and she's a 5 CP forward. So the ruling I mentioned, if the character is no longer on the field, it doesn't get the buff, so if you sack a goblin, it doesn't do the extra 2k. Which I think is really stupid. That's not how it works in Magic, but whatever. Yeah, I guess what did you two think of this card?
I think that at damage 3, this card is insane, right? Because it's a 2CP deal 8k. And damage 3 is a low threshold, but I just feel kind of bad drawing these.
Yeah.
The game, so I don't know. I just know people were like very mixed on this card, so I wanted to bring it up. I think it's okay. Again, insane at damage 3, so as a 2CP deal 8k is pretty good, right? Get a 5k out of the deal. I don't think it's game changing for fire though. It's not gonna like suddenly turn Mono Fire into tier 0 or something. So.
Yeah. Pat, what did you think?
I pretty much agree with everything Emmanuel just said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. My big thing is uh, like you said, the damage 3 is like what makes this card good. And fire, the only self damage that it has, I think, is like Bosch, right? Which if you're playing Earthfire. But I don't think you would play this in Earthfire most of the time, right? Like you'd be playing this in Mono Fire if anything. So,
Most of the
um,
time, yes, yes, yes.
yeah. So I guess like you would only really want this card if your opponent was playing forwards anyways and like attacking you with them. So this would be a dead card anyways in like control matchups. So maybe the fact that it's damage 3 isn't like too big of a deal, right? Um, yeah, I don't know. I think the damage 3, like you said, is kind of the big threshold for this card.
Yep, I agree.
All right. Anything else? I'm going to talk
Nope.
about the cycle backups at the end. So
Yeah, yeah, no worries. We'll keep going.
yeah.